Namaskar and welcome to the show Psychology with a very uh, famous host, with a famous guest who has written 4 books on RSS. And he is a social reformer in a way you can say it because he has been working a lot in the society to bring the fresh ideas amongst the youth. He's a writer, he's an author, he's an academician like all of us, and he is involved in a social work which encompasses the entire fragment of Indian society. So without delay, let us welcome Sri Ratan Shardaji. Namaskar.
Namaskar ji, namaskar.
So Ratan Shardaji, it has been a tough time both for US and India.
Oh, it's horrible time actually. It's very bad time in US. I mean, we never imagined this will come to this pass. Very sad.
Very sad. I mean, US has crossed 100,000 deaths due to coronavirus.
What happens that even a good intentioned movement can be taken over by interested anarchic elements. We saw that in India when Jallikattu movement is happening, it was taken over by jihadi elements. Then they had to close that movement in a haste, and some decisions are taken. I see something similar where riotous mobs have taken over the real cause, which justified protests, but not what has happened.
Yeah, in a democracy, generally it is allowed. So protests are good because peaceful protests are good. But what happened
Yeah,
in the US is very sorry, in a very sad state.
true.
So my discussion with you will be centered around how to build an ideological strength so that we are not carried away by such hijackers of the real pain. I'm also deeply sorry that the death of one individual by through the police hands. I'm deeply myself very sorry and sad on that. But what we have seen across the cities in the US is a large scale vandalism being hijacked by religious political forces, which have no bearing on this social thing. This social thing, nothing to do with religion. So, what is your viewpoint on how an ideology which is foreign to the actual incident can hijack this entire movement? Can there be a more political reason behind it, or it is just a phenomena which you've seen all over the world?
See, I am not very deep student of the American politics. Just as I read many other things, keep on reading. I also read about USA. And I think there has been, when things like COVID happen, I mean, there is a huge sense of dispossession that is happening in US. I was there in about 1.5 years back when I went to Los Angeles, and I went to San Francisco. I could see huge lines of food coupons even then. I could see what we call typically here in India jhopadpatti, or houses made of tents and all. It was miserable. When such people are not given any voice, such people feel that they are lost to the country and they have nothing for themselves. Then this disaffection can spark anything. In India, we have a sense of dharma. So even poorest of poor has the sense of dharma, that they're doing the right and not doing anything wrong. That sense has prevented from any kind of riotous things that we see here. For example, migrant laborers went home in millions, lakhs, and but still there was no riots, there was no disturbance. There were some minor problems here and there. And even while following this lockdown during COVID, you will see that we have been very patient. This sense of dharma that we have is our strength. That alienation that happened in USA when family system was destroyed by neo left, when the marriage institution was destroyed in the name of individual liberty, these things have created a whole class of people. When you have babies of nearly 50% babies out of wedlock or single parents, what kind of life they are living in? Especially black who have got more of such incidents. What is going on in child's mind? We don't know. When we claim that we want liberty, we want independence, we want freedom, that excessive freedom which leaves the children totally vulnerable and in the hand of the state, which cannot take of individual care, you have such disjointed people who feel they have nothing at stake, and when the spark happens, you find people rioting, people looting. So I think this has begun from the total alienation and total breakdown of family institution, of institute of marriage, which was found to be unsuitable by so-called progressives. And we see the result today. You can enjoy life, but what is the result of that independence of the child we produced? That is a question that we have to think and answer.
Absolutely right. There is a very stark contrast between the reaction of the Americans as well as reaction of the Indians. And I must also confirm what you said. You know, according to the American poverty levels, there are 30% Americans which are below the poverty line,
Oh,
right?
yes.
Which is 30%. In India, that number is just 10%. And I'm not trying to compare India and US, but this is a fact on the public record. Now, coming to this point, you very well mentioned. So, in terms of crisis, how the Indian government responded, like the biggest thing which I'm going to write an article on that, Janta curfew. What a remarkable idea! I mean, I it's a hats off what was done, and also a hats off to the Indian population because they they have so much self restraint, and I agree with you. It's coming from a dharmic background. There's so much individual self restraint that a country of 1.4 billion, 1.3 billion people acted together with Prime Minister Modi, and that is
And
hats
see,
off.
Aditya ji, I have also talked about earlier in one of the talks that the level of voluntarism you see, whether it's HSS, Hindu Swayamsevak Sangh, or RSS, or ISKCON, or various other voluntary organizations, including Muslims and Sikhs and church, the level of voluntarism you see in India is unprecedented. It is
Unprecedented.
people who took care of the people on the road. It was RSS camps on the way which took care of migrants. You have hundred thousands of people on the road, taking care of these dispossessed people and people who need help. Number of people from RSS was about 400,000. There was ISKCON. There were every other person who are doing something or the other, individuals. So this sense of voluntarism or that sense of debt to the society, what we call a samajik rina, you're debt to the society because society has created you. It has helped you nurture. So the sense of belonging that we have with the family, with the society, with the husband-wife teams, all this, that sense of belonging has resulted in taking care of every kind of person on the road, and the tragedy would be much heavier. Like if you depend on the government, like you depend in Western world or even in China, whether centralized or dispersed, naturally government cannot go to the level that individual person can go. That sense of belonging, sense of compassion has to be there. It doesn't come from bureaucracy. So this is the strength that India has, that sense of belonging to the society and sense of belonging to individuals and to family and to your surroundings.
See, there is one more cultural distance, cultural strength which India, all these attitudes come from, and that is that India has always been inhabited by the same people. So it's not
Yes.
a foreign population, or America is a country which has been invaded by the Europeans and populated by the Europeans. But the Native Americans of America, they worship America as their bhumi, is their motherland.
True.
So that feeling is cannot come in immigrants or even three generation immigrants or four generation immigrants.
I won't go totally with you on this point because America did manage to create a sense of Americanism. All the people who come to America, whether it's you or anybody else, by the second generation, they feel they're Americans. They are not from any other country, and that sense of belonging that is very strongly built by the education system, by the political system, by the very strength, the democratic strength people feel. It was able to create a sense of nationalism, which is a construct last 100 and 200 years. But they were successful. It was called melting pot, and that I think Daniel Moynihan John Galbraith talked about melting pot, and that melting pot was there definitely. Now this extreme thinking of various political shades that has come in, so one extreme thinking creates another extreme thinking. So then you start seeing the society fall apart. Yes, the native Indians are not given due place. That will remain a regret. If they were given, you would have found much wonderful kind of society than it is today. But I think America did succeed. But this neo-left movement of breaking down the society, breaking down the family, breaking down the individuals is what that extreme level of freedom that people want, that extreme is never good. So we Hindus have always gone for moderation. That sense of extreme, any kind of extreme, whether it's state control or whether individual freedom, that is what has been the undoing of the society, not really the kind of successful creation of American identity that the Constitution of America and the people could make it.
See, a little bit, just a counterpoint, but your points are very good. The American exceptionalism is built on American brands, like, for example, Walmart, Microsoft, Apple. These are the American exceptionalism plus the World War II, the weapons. And but these are still very external to a personal life of a person, like the individual life of a person. The church had a big role in destroying families, huge role, where the church
Church.
intervened in the relationship between a husband and a wife, and so they had a big role. But today, what America is seeing is a revival of the human spiritual spirit, which is far more deeper than the external exceptionalism elements of American society. And but these incidents which happened in after post coronavirus, or still living through that, we are still going through that. These incidents which happened, they are they are unfortunate incidents, but the response has been even worse. uh,
True.
See, the writing is not an answer in a democracy, because democracy is a representative government.
True.
So my question to you is, my discussion with you will be that this, so the way the India handled it through dharmic way, that is, that policy can be extended to America also in any way, shape, or form.
Yes, of course. I've been saying that since I think a month or more. I may have talked about it in earlier talks with you also, with others also, that actually the sense of dharma, the sense of your duty to the society, to the nation, and to your own family, etc., is what creates a healthy society.
That's right.
And that's a gift that India has given to the world, and that gift has to be explained to the people that this is where we are missing something. That is the reason, in spite of being so wealthy and so well-to-do, having all kind of liberty, all kind of enjoyment in the life, the US citizen feels disturbed, and you have people going for antidepressant drugs, going to psychiatrists. The number of psychiatrists America has per thousand would be surprising compared to what other countries have. So that shows there is something wrong with the mental health, which is because that lacuna in our system, in the system of US, where we have gone for extremism either due to newer left or due to the capitalist thought, that Ayn had represented, where she said society owes, individual owes nothing to the society, and he has nothing owing to the country or the society. That exceptional individualism, which looks good when you read her, but then that kind of approach has actually created these problems, and it is better that the Americans look at India for the solutions that India successfully has nurtured for thousands of years.
One thing I must say, that today India is already in a way a good ideal citizen of the planet. India as a country, the whole country, and the all the Western ideals of charisma based approach have had a short life. But India has stood ground, and people are looking up to India for further solutions, because it has, as one society in a democratic way, sustained the nature of its own society. That I must.
See, Aditya ji,
Yeah.
see, we have to just to remind the world that how Indian society has behaved for thousands of years. We had southern kings, Cholavas, Pandyans, and Pallavas, who went all the way to Southeast Asia. They created empires there. They created wonderful temples, which are still wonder of the world. And they settled there. Their prince came here and married a princess here. A prince went from here and married a woman there. We had Naga women going to that place, all exchanges, and the wonderful dharmic ways were adapted by the local society. So from tribal society, they became Hindus, later on became Buddhists, which again came from Bharat. So the entire Southeast Asia, which sees the witnesses the beautiful Indian civilization, whether Hindu or Buddhist, and which other country would be one which expanded its base is loved by the people. You go to Southeast Asia and people love you. People love your religion. People love your culture. Because we never invaded people's mind, we never used force to spread our word. We spread it through our wonderful ideas, and people adopted. Those who adopted fine, those who didn't adopt fine. Few example of China, where one of the Chinese philosophers says that India ruled China for 15 centuries without firing a single bullet, without a single war. Till the advent of communist China, if you remember, India was something that was very close to China. There was no wars for centuries together. And we had Buddhist monks going from here, totally adopting to the place, translating Buddhist literature there, and people adopting the culture. The entire movement of Shintoism or Zen, etc., came from here. The martial art itself went from Kerala.
That's right.
No force used, no force used. Everything through love and through acceptance. So that history itself of India tells you that this civilization respects everybody's faith, throws up ideas and which people accept or people don't accept, but they never use force. Never where was any sword used to spread either Hinduism or Buddhism or any of the religion that we have. The dharma itself, which is Buddha and Hindu and Sikh and Jain, they were all spread through love, through their lectures, through their knowledge. You would have shastras. In which other country you would have shastras? So Shankaracharya does debate with Mandan Mishra. His wife is the umpire and she declares him lost. And then she debates with Shankaracharya. She loses. They become sadhus. They become his followers. That wonderful sense of intellectual compatibility, that intellectual debate, where you accept each other's point of view, that is a lesson that India gives to the world. And you just have to remind that lesson. You don't have to create a propaganda. You have to just
Actually,
accept and show this to the world what India has to offer.
this kind of real history is not discussed in any channel. Most of the channels in America and other places, this type of real history is never discussed. Now, this is the first time we are bringing out these kind of value system that Indian culture stands for. One more thing I would like to say, just add here to your point, that none of the Hindu temples stop anyone to attend their services if you are not part of the religion. So it is
Yes,
completely welcome. Anybody is welcome to join.
yes.
So you don't have to be a Muslim, you don't have to be a Hindu to join a Hindu temple, you don't have to be Buddhist to join a.
There are a couple of exceptions, but that happened because of the invaders, because they destroyed the sanctity of temples. But on at an average, on a large 99.9%, they are open to anybody, and you are welcome to share your understand what we want to convey, and you like it or you don't like it, but you're welcome. So this openness is the very strength of Hinduism, Hindu Dharma, what Rajiv Malhotraji called open architecture, where you can keep on adding the philosophies to your ideas with a very wide structure where you have boundaries of what we really call the rules of the game, where you have certain ground rules that you which you follow. Within that, you can have any view.
Very good point. And one more thing, before we end the talk, is that there is a very big influence of the left behind the rights here in the US now, and same thing which happens in India. And there's ultra left also, along with some. I also some video glimpses of Middle Eastern faith coming and trying to proselytize their own religion in the midst of the rights thing, and that happens in India also. I think there is a parallel between the two countries with what's happening. So this hijacking of a democratic right to protest. So where does this ideology come from? What is this ideology?
See, we are aware that Christianity reformed over a period of time. Christianity at one time, at the time of Old Testament, was as intolerant as Islam was. That is the reason we had jihad, we had crusades, because both of them believed their religion is better, their religion is the only way. So they had these clashes, but then over time, Christianity did carry out its soul harvesting, did carry out its conversion, and those activities didn't give up. But the militancy, that kind of aggressive violence was given up. Exclusive was not. So this clash between two faiths coming from the same roots is the root cause where you see this kind of very divisive stage you see today. And because the thinking is similar, Now tell me, the people who are today praying on the road, offering namaz during riots, would they have that right in any Middle East country, any
No,
Islamic country? No,
no.
sir. They will be put behind. In Middle East, I have been there many times. You can't just sit anywhere in the road and start praying. Don't allow. They don't allow any discipline, indiscipline, whether it's for religious purpose or any other purpose. So when you have no rights at all in the countries which you worship, which you claim is the way forward, and you want that Sharia to be implemented everywhere, then how come you are today with the people who are fighting for democracy? This strange paradox of ultra left who claim to be agnostic, atheist, who claim to be enemies of religion, with the people who believe everything depends on their religion, everything has to be as per their religion, is a very strange axis which will actually hurt the American society. It's better that they understand is better. Go back to the basic, teachings of Jesus. What has happened in US, but today the basic message of Jesus, of compassion, of looking after the poor and offering, them services, if even that is understood, you'll see a huge change. But look at a group of people who have nothing to offer but human rights abuse, and then telling us this is the inspiration which comes from the very land, then it is a very, very conflict and hypocritical situation. And
Absolutely.
earlier the Americans understand the better. If they all have to see any reason, they have to come back to Hindu way of thinking. They have to offer space to every kind of belief system and faith system. So the US universities, which are the den of leftists of various schools, who are now getting supported by funds from Middle East, they have to offer space to others also. You can't have chairs in the name of Hinduism where the Hindus don't have any right to speak, and then you keep on abusing Hindus by using your leftist side, your glasses. That has to go. If that goes, then you will see a huge change in American society itself, in the way we look at various issues that American society or Western will use, and that therein lies the solution.
No, very good point. And Ratanji, is always a pleasure to hear you. And this was a short clip, but many students watched it. And so we will discuss coming more weeks into similar topics which are directly affecting the current times from the dharmic point of view. So namaskar and thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Aditya.